This is the SBA Update, exclusively on ASBN.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining us today. Today we are joined by two leaders from the U.S. Small Business Administration who play a critical role in helping small businesses and communities recover and prepare for disasters. With us is Chris Stallings, who's the Associate Administrator for the Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience, and Teresa, who's the Southeast Regional Administrator. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us in the studio today.
Jim, thank you so much for having us today. It's our honor to get the message out about the SBA and how we help business owners, homeowners, and renters recover after a disaster.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming in. And I think when you add those homeowners and renters, people are like, wait a minute, I thought it was a small business administration, right? But you do help a lot of different homeowners and renters in that.
Yeah, because after a disaster happens, homeowners and renters, they also own businesses, right? They also are employed by businesses.
Sure.
They weren't asking for a disaster to happen to them either. So we got to make sure they're whole and build the community. So that's the big part of the recovery side of Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. It's the recovery and the resilience part, and making sure the homeowners and renters are whole is a big part of the SBA's mission too.
Sure. Yeah, that's fantastic. So before we get started, Tyler, tell us a little bit about your role at the SBA and your background.
So as the Southeast Regional Administrator, I cover 8 states from Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi.
Wow.
It's an honor to be in this region, to be the eyes and ears for small businesses within the Southeast. But I actually grew up in a small business down in Sarasota, Florida. My dad owns a detailing shop. So we went around all over the place, detailing nice cars and actually working with business owners and seeing the passion of my dad. He just had an idea. He moved down from Jersey down to Florida, and he didn't know anyone. He just was like, hey, I got an idea to live the American dream and to provide for my family. So he started this company, and it allowed me to go to college, and that passion for small businesses and seeing people succeed just carries over. So it's a true honor and privilege to be in this position to help small businesses within the Southeast.
That's great. That's great. What did you do prior to taking this role?
Yeah, so prior to taking this role, I was actually had the honor to work for President Trump's administration in the first term at the White House and State Department. After that, I worked on his campaign in 24, where I was in charge of managing the vice president's travel schedule. And then after that, I was on the transition team for the SBA. So I got to see firsthand of, what's the plan moving forward with the SBA. After that, Administrator Kelly Loeffler gave me the honor to work as the White House liaison. So I had the opportunity to walk around and staff the entire agency, which is a great privilege. And then after talking with the administrator, she asked me to take this position. So Here I am.
You've had some very impressive roles there.
Yeah, it's been a great ride so far.
That's fantastic. And how about you, Chris?
So my career with government started in 2008. I joined the Georgia State Patrol as a state trooper here in the great state of Georgia, and started a public service career there, and was able to spend quite a bit of time there being a boots on the ground guy, responding to disaster as a first responder. So saw that side of it. And later on in my career, I began to given the opportunity to work with emergency management. And then in 2020, right in the height of the pandemic, Governor Kemp appointed me the Director of Emergency Management for the state of Georgia.
Wow, big role.
So big role, big step up, but I found a passion now from all those years of responding on the ground as a boots on the ground guy, then stepping into leading the state's response to those disaster survivors, those folks that didn't ask to be in that situation. So from there, Administrator Loeffler reached out and asked if I would take the role here as Associate Administrator for SBA. I'm very honored, much like Tyler said, to be even thought of. I'm the first state director of emergency management ever to sit in this seat. So kind of brought a different look to what the role of SBA's response is. So yes, we are a loan program, but looking at it through the lens of emergency management, how we can better prepare, sustain, and get folks ready. So I'm very honored to get to do this job. It's a great job being there, supporting folks who've went through quite possibly the worst day of their life.
Boy, that's for
and
sure.
So we just very, very proud of the work of SBA and the role of being there to help folks out.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. And again, very impressive roles. So thank you for all that you've done. Tyler, talk to me about some of the benefits of working with the SBA and obtaining an SBA-backed loan. There's a lot of people don't understand the difference between going to a bank and getting a typical bank loan and the way that the SBA will set up their financing for small business owners.
Yeah. So the best part about working and getting an SBA loan is the fact that banks are incentivized to actually loan to small businesses, right? Because as you know, the underwriting process for $100,000 is the same for $100 million.
Yeah.
Right. So the process is still the same, but banks don't want to loan smaller amounts, right? There's a lot of risk. Small businesses go under, right? So what the SBA did, it was created in 1953 to solve that problem with the government guarantees. So if you're a small business and you have an idea, but you don't have a track record, you don't have the credit score, right? You can go to a bank and apply for an SBA loan, which incentivizes the bank to lend to these small businesses. And as we all know, small businesses are the backbone of the American economy. So they're the ones that are going to be employing people. They're the ones that are going to have their company logo on the back of the Little League T-ball, baseball, like stadiums, and they're going to be sponsoring teams. So it's really important that these small businesses get the access to capital that they need, and that's where the SBA falls into place. So the benefit is that small businesses qualify. On top of that, interest rates are relatively reasonable, right? They're not going to be overcharged like you hear some other companies charge small businesses a lot more in interest. Yeah. But it's not a credit card, right? So they're going to be stable, reliable rates that are lower.
Also with extended terms too, right? Some of my friends that have gotten loans that are backed by the SBA have gotten 10-year, 15, 20-year, even longer terms, which is a huge help in building a small business.
Yeah, it's a huge help, especially the longer the term, the better. So you can lock in the rate at, let's call it 8% for over 15 years. You can actually plan your budget.
Right.
You can account for that.
With much lower payments. Where most small community banks might give you a loan, but they want that paid back in maybe 48 months, maybe 60 months. You're double or triple that monthly payment than if you went with an SBA backed loan, right? Yeah. Talk to me about how you guys work with FEMA, because I know that you guys are hand in hand with FEMA in terms of helping these businesses get back on their feet after a disaster.
Yeah, so a lot of our responsibilities to states, tribes, territories comes from a presidential declaration. The president declares an area a natural disaster, whether it be man-made or natural disaster. And FEMA is the mission assignment agency of federal government. So they come in, they assess, but we work very closely because they're a grant agency. And so a lot of times their immediate needs, as a matter of fact, one of their programs is called Immediate Needs. Okay. So those instant responses. But where we come in and we partner is we're looking for that long-term recovery. So FEMA is a short-term recovery branch of the federal government. We're the long-term. So as you mentioned in some of the terms, a disaster loan is a 30-year. We can go up to 30 years, and our interest rate is much lower than you can find on the open market. Right now, if you can find credit elsewhere, our disaster loan interest rate's 2.81%. for 30 years. And that's, for a homeowner or a renter or a private not-profit. And then for a business right now, 4%. Wow. So that's incredible, recovering from disaster. So
no question.
Our partnering with FEMA is extremely important because FEMA has name recognition in the disaster world. And so it would be crazy for us to not partner with such a recognized industry, but also we do bring a different flavor to the recovery process. So when the president declares or we declare, we have a lot of declarations for our agency that don't rise to a presidential, so we don't have that FEMA support. So we also operate independently. Last year alone, we had 428 declarations, either partnering with FEMA or on our own. So far this year, 393. So we're very active out there. And so for us, that partnership with FEMA is extremely important. but we're also very capable of acting on our own.
Yeah, wow, that's fantastic. So, Tyler, you're over a very hurricane-prone area in those states that you just mentioned. I don't know how you sleep at night, or you must watch the Weather Channel 24/7 to see
I do.
what's
I
coming next.
I get the alerts on X all the time, so whenever a storm's coming through, I know about it.
Talk to us about that, and maybe you can share some advice on what small businesses can do to prepare for a hurricane or some of the tornadoes even that we see come through after hurricanes.
Yeah. So this is what we like to call like blue sky conversations, right?
Okay.
Make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have your documents backed up, whether it's in the cloud, right? Make sure you have your tax returns from the previous year, profit loss statements. Make sure you have proof of insurance. Make sure you have all your documents in the cloud. And also, if you're a hard copy person, put it in a safe. Put it in a waterproof, fireproof safe. Because when a disaster happens, you're not going to be thinking about where's my paperwork, right? You want to know it's already there. And then after a disaster happens, the SBA team comes in, and we're going to have people there to actually walk you through the process to apply for one of these SBA loans. And having that information on hand is very critical to apply to get one of these SBA loans after a disaster. So the blue sky conversations, and I know Chris, you talked about this recently too, about how there's other conversations that you should be having during blue skies with partnerships.
Yeah,
correct?
I think partnerships are extremely important inside your industry. So you take this industry, for instance, your business. If disaster struck this building, you would have a partner somewhere where you could say, you know what, I can't close my shop just because disaster hit. So you got a space I could borrow.
Yeah.
You got a space I could utilize till I can get my space back up and running.
Very good point.
And a lot of times we don't think about that.
Right.
You know, and as we've seen, tornadoes and fire, one side of the street's destroyed, one side looks like it was never touched. The same thing happens in hurricanes, unfortunately. But utilizing those resources, those continuity of operation plans, if you will, saying, you know what, how do I keep my business going if my building is gone?
Sure.
What do I need to think about? Or what do I need to think about if I have a mobile food industry?
Yeah.
What do I do if I've lost my van or my truck?
Yeah.
How do I keep business? Is there a kitchen that will let me use some space till I can still do some delivery? So I think, to Tyler's point, thinking of those things on days where you're not stressed is much easier than thinking about that after disaster is hit. The question, what now, is much easier to answer when you've got time to think than when you have to think.
Right.
And that's
Good,
a
very
tough
good
situation.
point. Very good point. And it would seem to me too, for the people that are listening to us have this discussion, probably not a bad idea to set up a line of credit with backed by the SBA, so that you've always got it there, right? Even if you are not utilizing it, but to set up $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 line of credit, so that in the event a disaster does hit, you can then tap into that immediate line of credit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say too, for us as businesses, we have a quick turnaround. So business, renters, homeowners, we have access to capital, or we have access to unsecured loans very quickly. We can turn those around in as little as 72 hours.
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
that's our goal. So we recognize that as a business owner, you didn't ask to. No one volunteers to get hit by tornadoes,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
No one asked to be in the path of a hurricane.
Right.
We recognize that. So we roll out our team. We want to get that open and go. I mean, we have some very significant loans that close in as little as 2 weeks, because the one unique thing about SBA through disaster is we are the lender. We're the only lending branch of the federal government. These are our dollars. We provide the underwriting, we provide the closing, we provide the lawyers in certain instances. If the president signs a declaration and makes it and turns on an individual assistance program portion of the presidential, we provide everything. We got the closing attorneys, we provide you legal guidance.
Wow.
We work through the process because we do realize you didn't ask to be there.
Right. Full partner.
Full partner.
Also, Jim, just to make sure everyone knows, for businesses, the loan amount is up to $2 million. For homeowners, it's up to $500,000, and then for renters, it's $100,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So
That's great.
they're big amounts, and on top of that, there's also the 20% mitigation that if you can add into your loan 20% of what it would take to repair your place and make it better storm-proof, right? So adding in storm windows, better irrigation system, you can add 20% onto your loan too, to help you prepare for the
And
next
to add on to that,
Wow, that's cool.
one extremely important piece of what Tyler just brought up too is if you already have a home loan and you are underinsured,
Right.
so there's a gap in what it would take to put your home back.
Sure.
Sometimes that debt to income can be off. We also have the ability to refinance your original loan
Really?
up to $500,000 at that low disaster rate, that 2.81%.
Wow, that's nice. Yeah.
So a lot of times when they come and sit down with us, they financially might very well leave better off because we've been able to reduce that original mortgage,
Sure.
roll in that new term, do it for 30 years at 2.81% right now. And so it really is a program that brings relief, brings that recovery, brings some peace of mind.
Yeah, boy, no question about it. I didn't even know that. I know they would do a refi like that on another, on your past loan, or your current, I should say, your current mortgage. That's a very appealing situation. So, what actions can businesses take before a disaster to prepare? You've mentioned a few of them, but what are some of the other things that come to mind?
So, once again, get documentation ready,
Yeah.
right? Make sure you're storing everything in the cloud. Make sure you have, if you're a hard paper person, make sure you have it in a safe somewhere that's not going to get destroyed after a storm. And then on top of that, as Chris already mentioned, start having these conversations with other partners in your community. That's a big part of how Chris and I work together is after a disaster happens within the region, my team's going to reach out and find people that are willing to host these disaster recovery centers, right? Because, Chris's team isn't set up in this county, right, after a storm. So my team will help them find a location to put it there. And then that way we're engaging the community as much as possible. So prior to a storm, think about it. Like, think about how you're engaging the community, because at the end of the day, it's a whole community effort to rebuild.
During a disaster, or say the recovery part of it, do you want the business owner to contact the SBA directly, or do they go to their local bank that they're using and then the bank works with the SBA?
They can come to us directly after a
Okay.
disaster.
Okay.
So we're actually going to have people on the ground. We're going to have a team get hired on, put into whatever county, whatever state that the disaster happened, and they're going to be there to walk the borrower through the process, right? So if you're a business owner and your place got flooded by, tropical storm or whatever, you can actually go into one of our centers, sit down, whether you have it on your computer or hard copies, and then an SBA team member is going to actually walk you through the application process from start to finish.
And is that at that point, is the SBA then loaning the money directly to that business owner? They are.
That's
so they're,
correct, yes.
you're actually cutting out the middleman, which is the bank. So they're actually funding that transaction.
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think we'll establish what we call a business recovery center, a BRC.
Okay.
And that center will have SBA employees.
Okay.
As Tyler mentioned, we will walk you through beginning to end.
Yeah.
And affectionately up to the submit button.
Okay.
Once it's submitted, it goes to our underwriters.
Okay.
Our underwriters will review. They'll reach out, talk to you. Hey, let's see. And a lot of times, you have an idea of what you might need, but after individuals that work year in and year out, as I mentioned, hundreds of disasters a year, they can look and say, you know what, if we do it this way, I think we can reach a little better outcome for you. So by, as you said, cutting out the middleman, because we're the direct lender, it gives us a little more flexibility.
Sure.
We're not just guaranteeing someone else's ability to get you a loan. We're the ones taking the extra stride. So because it's our money, sometimes if we have to look at a different way or a different angle, that's what we're willing to do.
Sure. To switch gears a little bit off of some of the negative, because we're talking about disasters, right? The SBA is really known for putting people in business. Talk to me about that. There's so many people out there that watch our show and read our content, and they're just on the cusp of whether or not they should jump in to opening up a small business. That dream that they've always thought, I want to one day be my own boss. And is now a good time to start a small business?
Yeah, now is a great time. Optimism from small businesses is high under this administration. I would say now is the perfect time. You have the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill, which is the largest tax cut. So there's so many incentives for small businesses to start right now. What I recommend is every small business, go to our website, go to sba.gov. From there, you can see all the resources that we provide. Another thing that's really unique about the SBA is the fact that we have partnerships with other other like agencies and departments. One of them is the Small Business Development Centers, SBDCs. They're the consultants that are in your state that you're already paying for with your tax dollars to help you come up with a business plan, to help you create your idea and put it onto paper. So that way you can present it to a bank, get that SBA loan, get that government-backed guaranteed loan. So that way you can actually start and grow your business. So I really highly encourage everyone to go check out the SBA website to learn about all the programs that we do.
Yeah. We've interviewed a number of people from those organizations, and I will tell you that the work that they do is just incredible. I mean, they literally hold the hands of these small business owners or those that want to be all the way through the entire process, right down to advising them in every single step of operating a small business, which is much needed, for a lot of people that want to make that step, right?
It is. It's really needed. My big message is you're not alone. If you're a small business, you're not alone. There's resources here to help. Everyone has this mentality that you got to pull yourself up in the bootstraps, but as you know, you've been in business, it takes a team.
It does.
Right? It takes a team to actually be successful. So the SBA should be a part of everyone's team to make sure that their business dream is successful. So at the end of the day, they can live the American dream, be their own boss, and support their family.
Right. Yeah, no question. And I think everybody agrees that President Trump is very pro-business, and he's the guy that you want at the helm when you're talking about business or even starting a small business. He's creating this environment right now, even by wanting these rates to come down. Obviously, that's been somewhat of a hurdle, but seems to me, based on what I see in the media and the news, he's going right after it.
Yeah, and that's why business optimism is so high right now, because we have President Trump in office. President Trump and the Vice President understand business, right? They've both been in the business world before getting into the public sector, into public life as a public official, right? So they understand business at the core, and they know what business owners need to be successful. And that's why you see the one big beautiful bill is the largest tax cut in American history, and that's going to spur growth, especially as President Trump has his finger on the pulse when it comes to interest rates and trying to get them down. Like, he understands business. He's here to support small businesses within the Southeast, within the entire United States as a whole. Now's the best time to get into business.
Yeah, no question. Chris, I'll give you the last word. Any advice or any final thoughts to our audience of small business owners and entrepreneurs before we close out?
Yeah, I think plan early. Take advantage of your blue sky days. Know that you've got the SBA, not just as a guarantee to start a business, but that we've got you on those bad days too. When disaster strikes, we're there. We are going to be a part of your recovery if you want us to be. We want to bring solutions, and we enjoy conversations. I have kids, and I tell them all the time, less communication solves nothing. Let's talk early. Let's get in front of the problem.
That's right.
And so for us, I would say, come have a chat with us. If you got questions, how to make yourself better through disaster, we want to sit down. You can follow us on all our socials. We do a lot of alerts. We echo the National Weather Service and some of those. It's a great place to get those alerts out so that but we also provide a lot of information on there about how to survive disaster, what to think about ahead of time. And so I would just encourage anyone to make a plan early, take advantage of our blue sky days.
Yep, absolutely. Chris Stallings and Teresa, thank you so much for joining me on the SBA update here at ASBN. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Thanks for watching the SBA update exclusively on ASBN.